Hello, everyone. How you doing this afternoon? My name is Erica Meg, and for anyone who does not know me, I am a realtor with Brooks and Davis. And today we're going to we're going to just have a discussion about the tax auction process with Harris County. If you have any questions, if you want to chime in, to talk about your experience and give any comments, just please do so. I like to have an interactive training session, so I don't want to just be the only one on this Zoom talking, especially when I don't see anyone's faces. So, just please just chime in so we can have a discussion. Before we get started, let me put in switch it over. Before we get started, I want to, of course, have this disclaimer that the information contained in this presentation does not constitute as legal advice, and it is for general purposes only. You should not rely upon the materials or information in this presentation as a basis for making any business, legal, or any type of real estate decisions. Please seek a real estate attorney for real estate advice. Listen, I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving the legal advice. We're having a conversation. I'm telling you about my experience, if anyone else has any experience, and how you can successfully purchase a home through this process. Got it? Raise your hands up and say yes, that you understand.
Yes.
Gotta say that. I don't want nobody saying Erica said. Erica didn't say nothing. I'm going to give a quick recap. So yesterday we took a field trip and we actually went to the auction. It was about 6 of us. No, actually 7, including Shay. She didn't take any pictures. She was actually the photographer and the videographer yesterday. So she wasn't in any, but we did go. So this is our group picture. Down the middle, there's a list of properties by precinct. So when you get there, they have these huge boards that's put up to show you the properties that are available by precinct. So we know Harris County have 8 precincts, and so they all, listed like that. When the auction is going on, this huge screen at the very bottom, there's about maybe 4 of them inside of this ballroom, where you can actually see the auctions going on, because each precinct, once the auction begins, each precinct auctions and bids simultaneously. So for people who want to bid in multiple precincts, there's screens there available so you can see which property is actually coming up next or they're currently bidding on. They give you the opportunity. And of course, they have vendors at the auction for people who are marketing their title searches, lenders. I think that was it. And just giving some people, there's even a program where you can learn, go into depth about this auction process. So they're marketing and vendors there as well. Any questions? Anyone else want to talk about the experience yesterday?
There's a question in the chat. Miss Kim Stubblefield says, where can we see the list prior to the auction?
I'll go over that. Good question, Miss Kim. I'll go over that. Any other questions? Shay, that'll be great if you could just monitor the chat for me.
Yes, ma'am, I'm on it.
So yeah, so the auction is very exciting. I love going to the auction. It's kind of almost like a hobby now. I look forward to going every month. It's exciting to just watch and just kind of just see the bidding. And it gets contentious sometimes, and there's some heavy deep pockets in there, bidding. And I'm like, oh, child, I want to be like that one day. So it's very exciting. If you haven't been, I suggest you go. It's free to go. It's open to the public. You don't have to register or do anything unless you plan to bid. So if you don't plan to bid on any property, you can just walk in. So before the auction, so I'm gonna take it in 3 steps: before the auction, the date of the auction, and after the auction. That's how I set the presentation up. Do your research. You're probably gonna hear me say this so many times throughout this presentation. Do your research. The properties are purchased as is. It's sight unseen. The only thing that you can't see, of course, is the exterior if you ride around the property, but you don't know what the inside of the property looks like, the condition of the home. So do your best to just do your research and know that you are purchasing a property as is. Of course, don't walk on the properties because some of these property, a lot of the properties, people live there. So of course you cannot walk on the property, but you can. I recommend you drive around, just kind of see the area, the neighborhood, so you can kind of get your eyeballs on it. But do as much. You can't go inside the property. Before the auction, you also, I would say, call the tax sales office. I provided the number and the website. Ms. Kim, this is the website where you can see the list of properties before the auction each month. It normally comes out within 2 weeks, 2 to 2.5 weeks before the auction day. So you just have to constantly check back, because once the auction is over, they pull that old list down from the month prior, and you have to wait about a couple of weeks and they put up the new list. Did that answer your question? Okay. You also want to call the tax office to check for any additional tax liability outside of the judgment. So these tax auctions, they have gone to court. They have the judge ordered a judgment against them. So now the home has been taken away for, it could be, I don't know how many years they wait until you're behind before they do it, but they get a judgment. However, that judgment date may have happened 6 months ago, 9 months ago. Now in the new tax year, the person who wants to bid on this property will be responsible for any additional taxes outside of the judgment. So keep that in mind. For example, I purchased a property through the tax auction a couple months ago, and the judgment was up until 2020. So I was responsible for paying 2021 taxes. You also want to check the HOA for any HOA dues, any condo dues. So if it's a condo, if it's an HOA, you want to research and contact the management office to see if there are any dues that's in arrears, because once again, you may be responsible for those dues once you acquire the property. You also want to contact Houston Public Works or in the office, floodplain management office. Of course, we know we live in a hurricane prone area. I'm from a hurricane prone area. So you want to definitely check for any outstanding permits that may be blocking utility release of the home. Check for any code enforcement or any liens on the property, because once again, any type of fees or fines, anything that's with that property transfers to the new homeowner. It doesn't stay with the old homeowner, so it will transfer to you. Especially if it's land and you want to buy land to build on, definitely call the floodplain management office, because if it's in a flood zone, you need to know what are the building restrictions. They may want you to raise it 10 feet, 12 feet. I mean, depending on, how the floodplain. So, please do your research, do your research, do your research. Also, like I said, call that number for the any building requirements if you want to buy land. But even if it's a house and a house has been abandoned and they don't have any utilities, before they will even release the utilities, you have to bring the house up to the current code. So those things need to be known in advance before you go and purchase a property. You can, get to the auction and luckily buy a house for $5,000. And then you think you're gonna go in there and just do quick renovations and sell it, or rent it, or whatever you plan to do, and you'll get hit with this stumbling block of, no, it's in a flood zone, you gotta raise it, you gotta do X, Y, and Z. They're not gonna release any utilities to have the utilities turned on in the home. So it's important to do the research. Run a CMA. We all are realtors, so we have that's a plus for us. We have access to the MLS to see what the current market current value is on the property, so you don't overbid, right? And once again, it depends on what you want to do with the property. If you want to live in it, if you want to sell it, if you want to rent it out, just know that you're not purchasing for more than it's worth. I would say, of course, choose more than one property. Look at several properties on the list in case they're not available or you get outbidded. So what I mean by if they're not available, many, and Shay can attest to this, many of these houses that's listed, by the time it gets to the auction, they're canceled. And they're canceled for several reasons. They're canceled because maybe the homeowner has paid the taxes, because the homeowner have up until 9:45 of the morning of the auction to pay their taxes, make a payment plan, whatever, and the property will be canceled. So when you get there, the doors open at 8:30, registration begin at 8:30 because they do on-site registration. Or you can register online in advance and complete the registration when you get there. They open up a ballroom, so it's held inside of a ballroom. It's a big ballroom. So they open up the ballroom at 9, but the auction don't begin until 10. So the homeowner have up until 9:45 of the day of the auction to make to pay the taxes. So I would say my goal is to at least look for 7 to 10 properties that I'm interested in, right? That I've done my research on. My very first time I went, I had a list of like 6 or 7 on my list, and I promise you, all 7 were canceled. But that was my first time. I didn't know, right? So I was too disappointed. I'm like, so keep your emotions out of it. Treat it as a business, because I got emotionally attached to one house my very first time going, and I had all these ideas. I'm just doing all this research, all that, and that it was canceled. Another reason I think it be canceled because maybe, big institutional investors or wholesalers probably get to the homeowner prior to the tax sale and offer them a deal, to pay the taxes, pay all the fines and fees, and pay the homeowner something, because you have to think, once it goes to auction, the homeowner gets nothing, they just lose their house. So it's very enticing for someone with deep pockets to contact them beforehand and say, hey, I'll pay you X amount of dollars out, I'll take care of all of the fines and fees, you just sell your property to me. What homeowner, especially if they're a motivated homeowner, maybe in a desperate situation, they probably take it. So I'm sure that's probably half the reason too, why some of these properties are canceled the day of the auction. So just, choose several properties, and, keep your emotions out of it. Save money for any additional fees, any repairs. Remember, you're buying this home sight unseen. You don't know what the inside is going to look like. It may just need cosmetic work. It may not need no work at all. It may need to be completely gutted. You never know. I've heard stories from my hometown. I'm not from Houston, from my hometown. I've heard stories where, some homeowners, they feel jaded because they're losing their house. So people do mean things. I've heard stories where the person poured cement in the toilet and flushed the toilet, right? And completely blocked all the plumbing. So that you have to go in the house and change out all of the plumbing. I don't know if anyone has had any experience of buying a home through the tax sale that can, or heard any stories that can share any stories. Do anybody have any stories? So all of you are new to the tax auction process? Okay, well, yeah, so have money saved. Don't use
Joy has an
all of your
experience she
money.
would like to share.
I'm sure. Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joy. Don't be scared. Can't see me. You don't need to see. Just okay. I I bought 3 tax properties in New Orleans, and my experience with them is they were in bad areas. I'm gonna just use them for investment properties, but I got them for like $1,300 a piece. Yeah, you gotta wait 3 years though. You gotta wait 3 years. After the 3 years is up, they give the owner 3 years to come back and try to get the properties. They'll pay you the amount they owed. Like if they owe $1,300 in taxes, they'll pay you that was plus 18%. But if they don't come back after the 3 years, you get the property. And from the outside, I could see one of the properties is like termite infested. Like I know I have to gut it and do everything to it, but for $1,300, I can rent it. I know one of them is like a 4-bedroom. I could rent it for at least $1,600 once it's finished. So,
right,
that's
and
nice.
that's the laws in Louisiana. So thank you for that, Joy. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. The redemption period is different here, and we'll talk about that. So for all 3 of them, Joy, is in bad condition where you will basically have to do a lot of renovations.
Yes. One of them need roof work. I see cats coming in and out of them. So both of them, I will probably have to do a total renovation.
Mm-hmm. Do you keep up now that you have it? Do you keep up at least with the grass maintenance, like keep the grass maintained and around the property?
I do
Or you
not.
just let it stay?
Yeah, I just let it be. Because I just was able to redeem one. So I mean, once I start fixing on it, I'll keep up with all that. But I haven't. I just was, you know.
Right. No, that's fine. I'm just, but that's definitely, you definitely have to have money outside of what you bid on there. So you can't take your last 20,000, your last 30,000, and say I'm going to buy this and it's going to be sweet after that. That may or may not be the case. Don't use all your money.
Yeah, it's definitely a project.
Right. Thank you for that, Joy. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
So on the auction day, now we're to the auction day. The auction is held every on the first Tuesday of every month. It's held at Bayou City Event Center. I think it's 9401 Ninth Street from 10 to 4. So as I stated, the doors open at 8:30 because registration begins at 8:30. The ballroom doors open at 9, where you can go inside the ballroom, and then auction starts at 10. They say 10 to 4, but so from my experience, the few times that I've been, it doesn't last that long. By noon, it's done, or even before noon, it's done. It go quick because since I've been going, most of the properties are canceled. So it's not a long process, but I'm assuming they allow for their time in case there are more properties to bid on, and yeah, but I've been done before noon every time I've been, but those are the times that's available. Have your money. Unlike in Louisiana, Joy, here in Texas, you got to have your money on site. So once you win that bid, you walk right up to the table and you make your purchase. You're paying right there. You got to either bring cash or a cashier's check can be made payable to yourself or the constable. Remember, they have 8 precincts, so they have 8 constables. Now, I was like, I know good and well people not bringing cash, because at first it was like you got to have cash, and I was so nervous to bring all this cash on me. But you can have a cashier's check. I chose to make it payable to myself, because of course, if I don't win anything, I could just deposit the cashier's check. And if I do win, then you just sign it back over and you sign it over to the constable. I didn't make it payable to the constable simply because I don't know which precinct, if I'm not looking at 70 houses, all of them might not be in the same precinct. So I didn't want to have, all these different cashier's checks. So I just may have the cashier's check made payable to myself. Joy, isn't it true that okay, so Shay, you have a question?
Joy had a question.
Joy, that's what I was asking.
My
Isn't it true that in New Orleans, they give you to the end of the day to bring the money back?
No, you have 30 days. So in New Orleans, when you bid on a property, when you go to the live auction, when you bid on a property, you have to bring the 10% cashier's check or cash right then and there. You still have 30 days to bring the rest of the money.
No, here in Texas, you got to have all 100% cash on site.
So 50,000, if you bid, you got to have 50,000 in cash or cashier's check.
The most that I have seen, like literally these 2 men were bidding, and the bid was won at $210,000. And guess what? You got to have all 210,000 right there on site. You can't say it's in a phone coming back. Yeah, you sign the cashier's check over to the constable.
What if you have a cashier's check for 60,000 and you win the bid for 40?
You'll get a refund. Yeah, but you have to wait for the refund. They'll refund you the money. Yeah, you gotta wait for the refund. They'll mail it to you. Yes, I'll talk about that a few slides down. Well, see, yeah, the laws are different. With this laws of Texas, and Joyce having experience from laws in Louisiana. So yeah, no, in Texas, you have to have 100% of the cash. So have your cash, know your limit, which is my next point, know your cap. Bid only what you know you have. Don't get caught up, in the emotion of going back and forth and thinking you're gonna draw more out of them, and you end up winning and it's 60,000, you only have 50. Because I know that there are penalties for not actually purchasing a property if you win it. I'm not 100% sure what the penalty is. The website just says that they seek damages the constable will seek damages. Now, I'm not sure what those damages are. And honestly, I want to know for research purposes, but I don't want to know for experience, right? I met a young lady yesterday that said in her state, when you do that, they kind of blacklist you, ban you from the auction. So I'm not sure if that's the law in here in Texas. But definitely just know that damage will be sought against you if you bid on something you don't have the money. Any questions or comments? And another advice I want to give is like only bid on the properties on your list, right? So the ones that you have researched, because it might come, you get to the auction, you have a list of 5 or 7 properties and all of them are canceled, or you outbid it on all of them, right? And then there's one come up and it's like, oh, you're excited, right? You're excited at the auction, like I want to do this, I'm a bid, and you go bid on that foreign one that you'll have no information on, and you can find yourself, maybe in, some trouble because you hadn't done your research and don't know no background on the house. Remember, it's sight unseen, it's yours, you cannot rescind it because you're unsatisfied, because you can't do nothing with it. So I just recommend that you bid on only the properties that you researched on. Treat this process just like a business and not, emotional. Does that make sense? Okay, so
I have a question, Erica. First of all, thank you. Obviously, you do have a lot of experience with the auction. My question is, if you were going as a representative of a buyer and investor to the auction, what does that process look like as it relates to cashier's check? Would it be okay to have that in the name of the prospective investor, pay to that investor, and then you come as a representative? Do you have any information regarding representing a buyer?
yes, I do. Thank you for that question. You can go and bid on behalf of another. Once you register, you just have I believe the actual person will have to submit a copy of their license and give you permission to bid on their behalf. And when you register in that person's name. So there's some documentation that go along with that. But yes, you can bid on behalf of another.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question, though. I would have forgotten to mention that. And you can also bid in your personal name or in the name of your business if you want to purchase your property under a business name. And you just will have to, show documentation of your, certificate of formation, and things of that nature. So it could be either way. And also, if you want to register, before you can register, if you have any other additional property in Harris County, all of the taxes have to be current. So you can't register to bid on a property and your tax is behind. They researched that, they won't allow you to do that. Any other questions? I see I have some comments in the chat. Shay, any that I need to?
So yeah, Adrian was just saying that yes, all funds are due right then, and she has purchased at the auction before.
Okay, great. Well, Adrian, you might can hop in and just, chime in if you want to.
So yes, I was just saying that, yeah, when you were speaking about the paying, and our property we purchased, I think was like 60,000 and some change. And you most definitely have to come. And you don't know, it's good to be able to do your research and find out. We've recently sold that property, but we did put a lot of work into it. So it's good to research and see how much money you're going to have to put into that property, depending on what you're trying to do with it, because it could cost a lot at the auction, and it can cost a lot after the auction as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Adrian.
Well, you're welcome.
Hello? Uh-oh.
Yes.
Oh, can I say something, Miss Laverne?
Yes.
I was almost there. Man, I really wanted to be there. But yesterday, and because I had some information I wanted to bring to the office and share as well, because I stayed for the foreclosure session. But
Yeah.
there was a guy that had just bidded and paid $251,000 for a property. He came to that foreclosure lady for her to look at something to see. I think yesterday you said EOS.
Yes, the execution sales.
After-
You're about to talk about this right now.
Oh, okay. After he paid that 251, well, I don't know if you want me to say it now, but I'm driving, and so I don't know if but I'll let you go ahead and do that then.
I'll just go over the 3 types of sales, and then you give that experience.
Okay,
And
okay,
I
that's
want to
fine.
I want to see if it's lined into what I think, because I kind of stay with execution sales right
Okay.
now. So this is perfect. You're right on time, Miss Laverne.
Okay, so I'm hoping that I'll still have good reception when it's.
Okay, there are 3 types of sales at the tax auction. It's an execution sale, tax sales, or resales. And you say, I got research. So the execution sale is a court order directing a constable to enforce a judgment. This does not include any delinquent taxes. So these are any type of fines and fees outside of taxes that's due. It could be something as you not paying your HOA dues. You may not pay, you might didn't pay your ISD, dues. You might have gotten fined for your grass being too high, the garage is damaged or falling. These type of fines and fees, and you're overdue, and the association or whomever seek a judgment against you. It's an execution sale. The challenge that I'm having, and I'm still doing research on for the execution sale, for what I believe is, if there's a mortgage on these properties, because you got to remember, it's not for taxes, it's for simple stuff like you're not paying your HOA, so you're more than likely to have a mortgage. Whomever wins that property is now responsible for that mortgage. It's subject to. Remember, when you win the property, you win everything that comes with the property. So I stay away from execution sales. Now there are ways to know if they have mortgages on the property. Of course, you can do a title search. I'm sure some big investors and institutional investors or deep pocket investors have title companies run title searches before the auction to know what all is, any liens, in any mechanical liens, any judgments, anything against this property. They can afford to do that. And they have some title companies that advertise around at the auction, to say that, you can get it done for, really inexpensive. However, if you're looking at, 5, 6, 10 properties, it can get pricey, right? For them to run title searches, and that property may or may not even be available by the time you get to the auction. So that's why I just, I steer away from execution sales, because I'm not, I don't really know if that property have a mortgage on it. The next type is a tax sale. So this is the one where the property has adjustment for unpaid taxes, and it's been offered for the first time at the auction. So once again, people get behind on their taxes, the county or the city, orders the, judge to put a judgment in, and now you have a tax sale. The resale is the same thing, but just that the property didn't receive the minimum bid, because every property have a minimum bid on the day of the auction. If no one bids on it, or it never reaches the minimum bid, then they're gonna strike it off, what they call strike it off, and strike it back to the entity, strike it back to the county. And then they'll offer it again at a later time, and that's your resale. So when they send it off for resale, they might lower the minimum bid. But those are the 3 types of sales held at the tax auction. Laverne, what were you going to say about the execution sale?
Okay, so there was a guy yesterday that wanted to bid for $251,000. But once he had this lady to look at what was all going on with it, I don't know if it had a mortgage on it, but at the end of the day, he owed $500 and something thousand for it.
Right. It probably had a mortgage on it.
Right. And so now he was upset because he didn't realize, he didn't do his due diligence and research the property He just thought he got a great deal for $251,000.
You came right on time.
So again, like you say, research, research, research.
You came right on time with that confirmation, for one with the research and for number two with the execution sales. Because the average people who are not institutional investors, who are not experienced investors, they hear about a tax sale, they just think, oh, I can go and, I'm looking at this. So, okay, once you get there, right, you see what's canceled, so they had like hundreds on the list yesterday, but I think it was only down to like 35 or 25 that was available for auction for all 8 precincts, because literally the majority of them are canceled. So what people do is just go stand there and Google the address, right? Oh, it's a beautiful house. It's a big house. They might look on the tax roll. Oh, it's 5 bedrooms. It's 3 bathrooms. Oh, the minimum bid only, $6,900. Oh, I can take this, maybe go in there, paint, do some stuff, and I'm about to sell it and flip it. I'm gonna make me $100,000.
Right.
So they go to business like, oh, I see that, the house next door sold. Because you remember, most people get that for 9 and it's off the 10. So they have an hour. They standing there on their phones. You can see them on their laptops, hard searching.
Right.
And like, oh, that house next door sold for $500,000. So I can bid $200,000, maybe put $50,000 into it, and I'm still gonna make me a couple $100,000. But for actually, you say you forgot to check to see if there's a mortgage on the property.
Right. And also, like you said yesterday, I don't know if you said it today, but I think that guy just got caught up in the emotions, the hoopla of it all, and just bought the property. But as a real estate agent, you can easily look at pictures online and get to that property, and that property is tore up.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So
I
I
have seen
just love all the information.
Seen many properties where these are photographers, what their filters make these properties look, gorgeous, and you get there like, I'm even disappointed, like, wait, huh?
Yeah.
So yes, but that Laverne, you did miss that part. I tell them, go, at least you can't go inside, but at least ride around, area ride to see what the street look like, if the neighbors are maintaining the grass. I'm sorry.
Can you peek inside the properties?
I recommend you don't go on a property because there's a lot of drove around and people do live there. People live on the property.
Right.
So yeah, I don't now if it looks vacant, then I would say yes. But if you're not sure, I've ride around some, and literally the people in the driveway in the garage, and I'm like, I get slow down trying to go see. When I see the garage, I'm like, oh, I don't want them to see me looking at their property.
Right. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, true.
Houses, they're falling behind on their taxes for one reason or another, or falling behind on fines and fees for one reason or another, but they still live there.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Thank you so much, Erica. Awesome information.
You're welcome. So I definitely say know your cap. For example, this is how I walk into it. If I see a property I like, and say I run a CMA and a property, it says it's worth $200,000, right? For example, I'm gonna be like, okay, and say I want to sell it. I know I want to flip it, for example. Okay, for my work, I want to make about 40 on it, 40,000. I know I got to pay broker's fees, may assist with some closing costs. So just as another 10, 15,000, see. I'm going to assume I need to spend $50,000 to renovate this property inside, because I don't know. I got to assume something wrong, some electrical, some plumbing, something. It might need to be leveled, something maybe remain near the roof. So I'm going to already, so my cap will be walking in is 90,000, 85,000. I'm gonna stop at 85, even if they're going up. Because I'm not a carpenter. I know I'm not a carpenter. I'm not a tradesman. I have to hire out all tradesmen, to renovate this property. Some contractors are going and probably bid up to 130 because they can go in there and do the work themselves. So you have to know, your situation, know your strengths and your weaknesses, and know what your cap is. Don't allow emotions or your ego, because a lot of this is, I think, the ego, where people going back and forth to prove that, okay, well, I want it, and you end up, in a trick bag. Especially if you don't have deep pockets and you're not wealthy, you don't have a whole lot of access to capital and liquidity. to be able to survive a financial stumble, from a bad deal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Mhm. So after the auction, so we've talked about before the auction, we're talking about the day of the auction. Now we're gonna talk about after the auction. There is a waiting process. Joe has mentioned Louisiana is 3 years. Here in Texas, the redemption period is 2 years for a homestead exemption. So if a house has a homestead exemption on it, you have to wait 2 years. You have to allow the homeowner to come back within 2 years to redeem their property. If the house does not have a homestead exemption, it's only 6 months. In year 1 of the redemption period, that homeowner has to come back and pay you what you pay for it. Any fine, any additional money you spent outside of that judgment, outside of that bid, to an extent, it can't be crazy. I think it has to be some negotiation there, but you get a 25% interest, which is sweet because I'm the one I want. I'm like, they come back. Where at this moment right now, where can I make a 2,500 return ROI on my investment in 1 year? Y'all can come get it. In year 2 for homestead exemptions, in year 2, it's what you pay, any expenses outside of that, plus 50% interest. They could definitely come get it in year 2. Now, while you're waiting, you can, if you can do what you want with it, you can live in it, you can rent it out, you can just let it sit. The only thing is, of course, you can't sell it because it's yours technically, but technically it's not because of this redemption period. So you have to wait. There is a waiting period. So Texas laws are a little better than Louisiana laws in this aspect because you don't have to wait 3 years. Louisiana is very, homeowner heavy with property rights. So their laws are, much more stricter with just people just taking properties. Texas is more lenient, like you're not doing right by it, I'm gonna take it, so it's a difference.
Erica,
Yes.
I have a question regarding the redemption. You were saying the homeowner can come and reimburse the new bond.
Person, it was like, no, they don't recommend that because they may not be responsible. And then I talked to another person and it was like, they may be responsible and there's some negotiations. So because the there's gray area there for me, I haven't gotten, and I'm also reading the tax law. I haven't really got to that point yet. So this is how I'm doing. So the auction, the one that I bought, it did not have a homestead on this. I have to wait 6 months. I'm going to wait about a good 3 months. Like, I'm gonna feel for it out, right? I'm gonna wait about a good 3 months before I start really spending money. Now, I paid the taxes, of course, because I'm going to pay the taxes. But in terms of putting money inside the house, it's like I want to wait a little while before I start just spending my money because I'm not quite sure if I will 100% of that will be reimbursed to me. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Erica.
You're welcome. Adrian, in your experience, do you know if you start spending money on renovations during the redemption period, would you be reimbursed for renovations? I know you're being reversed for additional taxes and things like that, but actual renovations in a home.
So I'm not positive on that because we didn't start putting any major money into these properties until the 2 years were passed because we didn't having to lose it, wait for the people to pay you back, because at the end of the day, whether they have to pay you back or not, it's a matter of when you'll get paid back. So,
Right.
They can't give you something that they don't have. And I don't want a payment plan extended out for no 10, 15 years waiting on no money to come back. So we did not start until it was free and clear.
Right. Yeah. So because I didn't get 100% an exact answer on that either. So I was like, I'm gonna wait a little while. I'm not about to, I'm gonna just wait. So it is some risk involved. It's not just like you purchasing a home through the MLS and the retail market and it's yours at closing. You have to wait. So once again, don't spend all your money. I give this advice to, even with making investments or just, You don't take your last 20 or your last 30 or your last 50 and go do this. You know, you have to have some money outside of that for your own personal life, your own personal emergencies, or, you know, just anything else. Don't spend all your money. The deed. So the deed to the home will be mailed to you within 4 to 6 weeks after the auction. If you paid in cashier's check and a cashier's check was more than the purchase price, you will receive the refund. Is going to come in the mail with the same time as that deed. So you will get it. It took me about 5 weeks. So yeah, it took me about 5 weeks to get my cashier's check was more than what I paid, so I got a refund. So it was about 5 weeks. Once again, if the property is vacant, once you cannot go on that, although you've won it, you cannot go on that property until you get the deed, because you have to show proof of ownership. So once you get the deed, now you can gain access to the property. If the property is vacant, of course, you just call a locksmith and you have the locks changed. If the property is occupied, and depending on what you want to do with it, if the property is occupied, then you can use that redemption period and just rent it out to them, because you can rent it to them. It's now yours. Or if you plan to live in there, do whatever, then you can begin the eviction process. You have to go to the constable. If they don't want to move out, you go to the constable and you have to evict them. Adrian, in your experience, what a property is vacant or occupied when you purchased?
My properties were vacant. I purchased some land, and then I purchased a home. And so neither time did I have any of those issues, because the home was vacant, and of course the other part was land. So I really, we kind of tried to do a little bit of research, because I didn't want to have to risk evicting anybody. I didn't want to have to go through that process. I've heard horror stories on having to evict people. And so, we just kind of tried to make sure that we got something that no one was living in, so we wouldn't have to go through that. You definitely have to do your research. We did have some taxes that were owed on the property. Luckily, it wasn't a whole lot, but it was some other money that we had to come off of extra, other than what we purchased it. But it's definitely good to do your research, drive by the property, see what's going on, so that you can have some kind of information going in before you make this large purchase and you have to go through all of this other stuff. Because like she said, you bought the property, somebody living in there, know they have to move, and they just tear it, just destroy it. Now you stuck. So it is good to kind of, you can ride by. You don't have to jump out and knock on the doors, but you can ride by. It's not hard to tell whether somebody is living in there or not. You can ask the neighbors and they'll tell you about some of the properties. So do your research, most definitely.
Thank you for that, Adrian.
Yes, ma'am.
The other thing after the auction you want to do is contact the appraisal district. You got to submit proof of ownership to the city and the county. So on a tax roll, it'll show your name as the owner and not the previous owner name. You contact, if the home is an HOA or it's a condo, you got to contact the management company to show them the deed of ownership. So now they can transfer ownership to you. And once again, you got to start paying those fees, condo fees or HOA fees. So you have to update all of the ownership information to your name. Now I know with the appraisal, with the tax office, I think they told me it still takes about 3 months. Even after you bought it, it still takes 3-4 months before all the ownership information shows over to you. But you still start that process, because now you are technically the owner. You're just sitting in a redemption period. Any questions? Any comments? Anything in the chat, Shay, I see they have more comments.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm asking if you will send the your slides so I can email them out.
Sure, I'll do it. I'll send out the slides.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, you can just email it to me and I'll email it to everybody else.
Okay. Adrian, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to know if you were going to go over purchasing the foreclosed homes.
I'm not for the sake of time, but I do, I was gonna try to squeeze it all in, but it would be longer process. I will say that the foreclosed process is pretty similar. It's held at the same location at the same time. It's not held in that ballroom. It's over across the parking lot in a pavilion. So the foreclosed process is when you're now purchasing from the lender, but it's still a bidding process. And you gotta have even deeper pockets, because now, of course, you're paying off the mortgage. So the minimum bids, it depends on the value of the property, 125,000, 180,000, 200,000. But I'll say that for another, for the sake of time, the actual foreclosure process, but it's held at the same time, same place. It's just over in another portion of it. And we can talk about that another time. So this was just strictly for the tax. Why is my thing? For the tax, the county tax auction. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining today. If you have any questions, that's my phone number, my email address. You can reach out to me. I will send Shay the slides, and you guys can have it for your records or for your research. But for anyone that's interested, research. Do your due diligence. Don't spend all your money. Don't let your emotions get involved. Know your cap. I'm just recapping, right? Because I can't say it enough. Laverne came here and she's, sent the testimony of someone who, thought they got a good deal, and it ended up not being a good deal because they didn't do their research.
Thank you, Erica. Great presentation.
Thank you so much. We have 5 more minutes left. If anyone wants to talk about anything or have any additional questions.
Thank you as well for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. This is what I love doing. I was and I'm from New Orleans as well, so I was a financial educator and financial coach, and I've been a realtor for 6 years. So I love helping build up our community. That's like my ministry, right? For the economic advancement of our people, right? We all we got.
All right, well, thank you so much, Erica. That was really good information. We had a good time at the auction yesterday. Does anybody else have any questions? Mr. Davis, did you want to say anything?
Actually, I do have a question. This is Laura. Erica, if we do have future questions, is it okay to reach out to you?
That's my information, my phone number, my email. You can, and I'll probably 90% of the time, if you go to the auction now, you'll see me at the auction. I'll be there.
Thank you so much.
A last bit of tidbit advice I do want to give. I just thought about it. Long gone are the days, and this probably just be here in Texas. I don't know about other states. I guess it depends on the market, but long gone are the days where you have people say, "Oh, I went to the auction, I bought a house for $5,000." No. These people, I think a lot of people have moved here like me, but moved here from places like California, New York, where they come in with deep pockets, institutional investors. And so, of course, if something is meant for you, it's meant for you. But it gets pricey. They're bidding 90, 100, 150, 200,000 on these properties. And I'm like, whoa. So just keep that reality in mind, if you do want to start acquiring property this way. It's not as the way it used to be. Any other questions?
I have a question. Is there any way to research what properties were selling for at past auctions?
Yes, that's a great question. So you can actually see a list of properties on the county website, or you can go to the actual attorneys, because there are certain attorneys that handle these judgments. And so I noticed that when I was doing my research on but I don't know if it's each precinct or maybe each home have different attorneys. So one attorney might have some houses but don't have all of them. I'll send you let me see if I can look it up. Am I still sharing?
Yes.
Okay. Let me pull it up. So one of them, I know one of the attorneys, one of the law firms I do know, and they actually show the results of the past sales, but they don't have all the sales on here. I don't know if these are the ones they represent. These seem to only be the tax portion, not the execution sales. But this is, you can look it up. So it's, you're right, you guys ready? I'll share again. It'll be easier because it's one of those, Purdue, fiddly, blah, blah, blah. So I turned into a tongue twister. Let me share my screen again. You see it?
Yes.
Purdue, Brandon, Fielder, Collins, and Mott LLP. They handle some of the judgments. And if you see, I wasn't looking on that this morning because I'm just all immersed. And they go by county. They don't just do a Harris County. And no, and these rules are not just a Harris County. It's basically a Texas law, it's state law, not really county law. So this law firm handles other counties as well. And if you see Brazoria, Chambers, they have the results of the auction. Some of Harris County precincts have the results here now. I don't know if any additional ones will come along, but you can see the results on the attorney website. I have not seen them on the county website.
Thank you so much, because I was wondering that the whole time, so I appreciate that information.
You're welcome, but let me look. For example, let me just go to Brazoria County. I looked it up this morning. I need a life, huh? You see what they said pull? That means these were canceled. These seem to be look like a block of land that was sold for $57,000. The minimum bid was $11,500.95, but it was sold for $57,000. This it says it's a lot. I'm guessing it's a lot. They don't have an address. The minimum bid was sold for $22,000. It sold for $134,000. So it gets very pricey. That's one example. I'm trying to get back to my, how can I move this?
Looks like Erica, you're muted. And Laverne, if you could go ahead and mute your mic, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was muted all the entire time. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, I was just saying that it was 1 o'clock. The timing is perfect, and that's all I have.
I need another, I need the number.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining. I will, get with Mr. Davis and schedule another class for the actual foreclosure, bank foreclosures. And, until then, happy investing.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Everyone have a great day. This will be up on the YouTube shortly.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.